Our final cast member to talk about is Tim Stampher, who, bizarrely enough, even though I'm talking about him last on the commentary, and he's the last to be for his main character to be introduced into the story, he really was one of the first cast members that I recorded, which was ultimately ended up being very good because to have gotten all of his stuff into the can, because he moved to New Jersey shortly thereafter, and last I heard is still there. So hopefully he gets out back here soon, because I'm missing that boy. I'd love to see him again. But we were able to get all of his stuff into the can before he left, so that was good. Tim plays Damon Gant, and it's interesting because Tim, like I said on the James commentary, he is another Bone actor. He's another person that I directed in Bone, and in Bone he played Smiley Bone, which, if you know the Bone story, if you know the Bone comic, Smiley Bone is about as far from Damon Gant as you can get. Smiley is a marvelously goofy, fun, wonderful, positive character, and Damon Gant is an asshole. So that was one where we went totally somewhere else when it came to the kind of performance that Tim gave. Tim gave just a wonderful comic relief performance for Bone, and he's not really doing that here for Damon Gant. But that said, I did cast him knowing full well what a strong actor he was in terms of a comedic sense, because Gant is not just a typical villain. If I were casting, if I had been doing the previous case in Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, if I'd been doing the Manfred von Karma case and I had to cast Manfred von Karma, I would have to cast an actor to play a villain who is an unrepentant, there's no other real shades to him apart from being a real fucking asshole. My apologies, by the way, for my language. I've been trying to keep a track of it, but I do have a bit of a potty mouth. My apologies if anybody is offended. I'm not, so I'm going to continue. He's a real rat bastard cocksucker. So he's Manfred von Karma. And to an extent, so is Damon Gant. But Damon Gant doesn't play just those shades. He also plays these weird friendlinesses, and he's got this lordly arrogance, and he's got also these weird little vibe elements that make him a very different kind of villain in that respect. So I knew that if I was going to, whoever I was going to cast in the role of Damon Gant kind of had to play all of these different facets. And interestingly enough, I think with casting Tim as Damon Gant, in a way it's a little bit more similar, as opposed to the way he was cast in Bone, it's a little bit more similar to the way he got cast in all of our stage shows at Chapman. Being as he is another Chapman Theater grad, he got cast as the heavy a lot. He's not a fat person. I don't mean heavy in that way, but like the heavy in terms of a type of role. He's a man who Tim is a guy who looks, I think, a little physically threatening. He's a fairly sizable guy. He looks like he's a little bit taller, I think, than most people, but not in a tall, skinny way, but in a kind of he could kick your ass kind of way. And he's not a bodybuilder or anything, but he looks like he could do some damage. And that was the way I think he tended to get cast a lot in college. And so because of that, he got cast the heavy a lot, and in a way that's similar to Damon Gant, because Damon Gant looks so physically imposing. I think he looks like he may be the tallest person in the whole Phoenix Wright cast of characters. I don't know that for certain, but he looks like he might be that. I also even pitched Tim down a little bit because, of course, Damon Gant is of age in the way that in the same way that the judge is of age. But that said, the judge really needed the sound of age. Whereas with Gant, I guess I could cheat it a bit more. Gant doesn't need to necessarily sound like a really old man. Gant just really needs to sound like an adult, because even though it's implied that he's an old man, and there are lines that make reference to that, he doesn't really act like it. He doesn't hold himself in that kind of fashion. He seems to be more physically in shape than perhaps the kind of old man that maybe the judge is. Judge is probably more of an old fat man in that kind of way. So that I cheated the age, I guess, with Tim is what I'm saying. But that was all right. I knew he wasn't going to necessarily sound as deep or as old as perhaps he would have been if I'd been casting from a pool of actors that included really older adults. But that, given what I was working with, there's no question about it that Tim was definitely the right actor for the role, and he sounded just fine for that character, just excellent. And pitching him down a little bit was just a way of emphasizing that a little bit more. In a way, I could have even used the original track. It would have sounded a little young, but I think pitched down the way he is, he sounds right. Sounds right for the role of Gant, and for that matter, he definitely sounds right in terms of his performance. Gant is another character, of course, who holds all the answers. He obviously holds all the answers, but he doesn't have to be as bothered by it emotionally as Lana, because he's not bothered by it in terms of his conscience. He is, he's the one who's benefiting from the secrets being held. And it was very interesting directing Tim in this role, because it was one of those things where I was just pushing to be as arrogant and in a way, but he's arrogant, but he's also got this, geniality particularly towards Phoenix at first, and in a way that actually never even goes away with Gant throughout the story. Even when Phoenix has finally taken him down, he doesn't really completely lose the geniality towards Phoenix, not really, and so that was an interesting way for our villain to behave towards our hero. To never really hate our hero in the way that many villains truly hate our heroes, and that made for a very interesting villain dynamic, and it allowed Tim to do these very different things with a villain than you would normally do, especially on Gant's weirder moments where like he would say something kind of quote unquote in the voice of somebody else, like the evidence says this, and so he would do this kind of like woo kind of high voice, to what the evidence sounds like, and we toyed with that in the moment. Tim again has such great comedic instincts, and I would say, what, just run with it, man. Just see, do this about as silly as you can do for the character and see if it works, and it worked beautifully. So it was like, all right, go for it. That works for that character. It was those were the kind of things we worked with to make sure the whole Gant character made sense in terms of both his arrogant, complete bastard side and also the weird, unsettling friendliness of Damon Gant. I didn't want you to feel comfortable when Damon Gant was on the screen, so I wanted you to be a little unnerved by him, not just because he was an asshole, but because he was an asshole who seemed to like you. So that's weird. And that leads us to the big finale for Gant, the laugh, the infamous clapping laugh, his big villainous breakdown. It's a typical thing of all Phoenix Wright villains, is that they have this big villainous breakdown, and the way Gant goes out is laughing. And so the way we did that, a little different from almost everything else that I did in terms of directing the actors. I went online first before even going to the session with Tim, and I went online and just saw how long. I got a video of the game itself in progress, that part of the game, and saw how long the laugh takes, because there was a set time that would go, and that was the only time that I did that, because of course, most of the game, the dialogue only continues on when prompted. But in this case, it was a set time for the laugh to go, and I did want to make sure that we got the time that the video lasts, because I didn't want the laugh to be short. That would suck. If it was too long, it was too long, but short, that was a problem. And even if it was too long, it would be a problem. So I kind of wanted to know exactly how long I needed to hit for, and it ended up being 17 seconds. And 17 seconds is a long time to laugh, especially when you're not, getting the opportunity to kind of work yourself up into it. Like when you start, laughing normally, sometimes you kind of like start soft. You're ramping yourself up into it. We couldn't do that, not with this. And the way that the Gant laughs, and the big final, clapping laugh, is he comes in full blast from the very top, and that's what I had to have Tim do, where he kind of comes right in from the very top and hold that and keep laughing like that the entire 17 seconds. And so I told him that's what we're going to have to do, and he did it, and he did it fantastic. I think he maybe only needed one take. Like, we might have done a second one for safety, but otherwise you nailed that laugh. It was just a beautiful laugh. Comes in at full volume and holds it the whole way through till it has this great madness by the end. And when and even when I pitched him down, I even got a little bit past 17 seconds because once I put him down to Gant pitch level, it was slowed down just a tiny itty bitty bit. And so that was great. I was able to even trail it off past the way the video goes. So that laugh came out perfect, and all the credit to Tim for truly nailing that one. The laugh ended up being kind of an in joke between us after having done the record together. It was the part that maybe was the most memorable, I think, for him. And so, but yeah, he did such a fantastic job with that, as well as everything. Tim, thank you so much, man. You kicked ass. Again, you knocked this one out of the park, and in every single way, especially in the latter half of the dub when Gant kind of becomes more important in the storyline. Oh, you just did a brilliant job. I cannot wait for you to get back out west so that you can so that we can like reconnect and hang out and stuff like that.